Ever wondered why we yawn all day, but dream of changing the world in a major way? It's the Bored and Ambitious Show.
Japan. 8th century. An empire is about to be forged, not by kings, but by warriors. A farmer stands knee-deep in flooded earth, his hands cracked from seasons of labor. This is his world: mud, rice, the endless rhythm of planting and harvest. Then, he feels it before he sees it. A trembling in the water. The paddy shakes, and through the morning haze, they come. Mounted warriors, thundering past like a coming storm, dust swirling, armor gleaming, purpose burning in their eyes. He doesn't bow. He simply watches. These men carry swords. They carry death. And though this farmer cannot know it yet, he is witnessing the birth of something extraordinary. These warriors and their descendants will rule Japan for the next 1,000 years. What made these men different? Not divine right, not royal blood. Something far more powerful, a radical idea that would reshape a civilization. Power belongs to those willing to die for it. In the centuries to come, this simple truth will topple emperors, forge an unbreakable code of honor, and create the sharpest swords in human history. The age of the samurai is about to begin. By the 9th century, Japan had become two nations wearing one name. In Kyoto, the imperial court perfected the art of living beautifully. Poetry competitions by moonlight, robes layered in precisely 12 colors, incense so refined that naming its ingredients was considered vulgar. But beyond the capital's gates, a different Japan was taking shape. In the provinces, men fought and bled for every rice paddy, every mountain pass. The court called them barbarians. They called themselves survivors. The court had a problem, and a solution that would cost them everything. To keep order in the violent provinces, Kyoto's nobles hired rural warriors. They called them bushi, fighting men, commoners, tools to be used and discarded. But these hired swords discovered a truth the perfumed aristocrats had forgotten. Power doesn't flow from poetry or pedigree. It flows from the men willing to draw steel. The bushi looked at their employers, soft, dependent, afraid, and then they looked at the weapons in their own hands, and they understood. They were not the servants. They were the future. Two families rose above the chaos, and their rivalry would remake Japan. The Taira, masters of the western seas, embedded themselves in Kyoto's court like silk wrapped around iron. The Minamoto, fierce lords of the eastern plains, built their power through loyalty earned in blood. For decades, both clans served the throne. But the emperors were losing their grip on the provinces, on the treasury, on reality itself. Soon the great clans would stop pretending, and Japan's true rulers would finally step out of the shadows. In 1180, Japan tears itself apart. The Taira and Minamoto clans, once allies, now mortal enemies, unleash 5 years of total war. Brother against brother, province against province. From mountain passes to coastal plains, warriors clash in a conflict that will determine who rules Japan. This isn't just politics. It's epic tragedy, written in blood, remembered in legend. Every battle draws the nation closer to a transformation no one can yet imagine. April 1185. The Shimonoseki Straits. 1,000 ships collide in the final reckoning. The Taira, cornered at last, fight with nothing left to lose. Arrows blacken the sky. Men fall into churning red waters. And then, a moment that will haunt Japan forever. The child emperor Antoku, only 6 years old, stands on a burning deck. His grandmother, the dowager empress, takes his hand. She tells him there is a capital beneath the waves, a pure land, a better place. Together they step into the sea, taking with them the sacred sword and mirror of the imperial regalia. The Taira are finished, But what sinks into that dark water is innocence itself. The man who won the Genpei War never enjoyed its fruits. Yoshitsune, brilliant, beloved, too talented to trust. His own brother Yoritomo, hungry for absolute power, declared him an enemy. Hunted across Japan, Yoshitsune died by his own hand rather than face capture. But in death, he became eternal. The doomed hero. The fallen cherry blossom. Beautiful precisely because he did not last. From the ashes of civil war, a new order rises. Minamoto no Yoritomo receives the title Sei Taishogun, barbarian subduing generalissimo. The emperor still reigns in Kyoto. But power? Power now lives in Kamakura. The age of military rule has begun. By 1185, Japan had invented something remarkable. A government of warriors, built by warriors for warriors. In Kamakura, far from the perfumed courts of Kyoto, samurai served as judges, governors, and record-keepers. They wrote laws with the same hands that gripped their swords. And in those halls, a code began to crystallize, unwritten, but ironclad. Loyalty above life, honor above all, death before disgrace. They had built a civilization worth defending. Soon they would have to. In 1274, the impossible appeared on the horizon. 900 ships, 40,000 warriors. Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis, ruler of the largest empire in human history, had turned his gaze toward Japan. His Mongol hordes had conquered China, Persia, and half of Europe. No army had ever stopped them. The samurai who gathered on the beaches of Kyushu faced cavalry that had trampled civilizations into dust. They fought with honor, in single combat. The Mongols fought with explosives, poison arrows, and overwhelming numbers. Japan survived that first invasion, barely. But Kublai Khan was not a man who accepted failure. 7 years later, he returned. 4,400 ships, 140,000 men. The largest naval invasion force the world would see until D-Day, 6 centuries later. An empire of islands stared down an empire of continents. Everything the samurai had built hung in the balance. Then the sky darkened, not with arrows, with clouds. Twice the Mongols came, twice the heavens answered. Typhoons of legendary fury tore through the invasion fleets, shattering ships like kindling, dragging 100,000 men into churning black water. The samurai had fought with everything they had, but it was the storm that saved Japan. They called these typhoons kamikaze, the divine wind. Was it providence? Fortune? It didn't matter. What mattered was the meaning they forged from survival. That Japan was protected, that the samurai spirit, combined with forces beyond human control, made these islands unconquerable. The Mongols never returned, and a nation discovered its soul. In forges across Japan, masters perform a kind of alchemy. They take raw Tamahagane steel and fold it, not dozens of times, but thousands. Each fold doubles the layers. Each hammer strike drives out impurity. The process takes months for a single blade. But the result defies metallurgy itself. A sword that is simultaneously hard enough to hold an edge through bone, and flexible enough to absorb the shock without shattering. No European blade could match it. No Chinese sword came close. The katana wasn't just forged. It was perfected. Layer by impossible layer. To the samurai, this was no mere weapon. It was his soul made visible. He slept with his blade beside him, meditated with it at dawn. When he died, it would rest upon his chest. The sword reflected everything: the swordsmith's devotion, the polisher's patience, and the warrior's own character. Care for it obsessively, and it would never fail you. neglect it, and you revealed yourself unworthy. To master the blade was to master the self. The old masters understood something profound. A blade has no conscience. It cuts equally for the righteous and the wicked. What matters is the hand that holds it. As one sword saint wrote, "The sword is a mirror. It shows you exactly who you are." In 1467, a succession dispute in Kyoto sparks a fire that will burn for 150 years. The Ashikaga shogunate, once the iron hand of Japan, crumbles into irrelevance, and the nation shatters. Watch the map. Hundreds of domains, each a world unto itself. Borders shift like sand. Yesterday's ally becomes tomorrow's conquest. This is the Sengoku, the age of warring states. And in this crucible, a brutal truth emerges. Power belongs to whoever can seize it. But chaos is also opportunity. A farmer's son picks up a fallen sword and rises to command armies. Warrior monks descend from their mountain temples, trading sutras for steel. Castles climb skyward, stone monuments to ambition. Then, in 1543, Portuguese ships arrive, bearing a gift that will change everything: firearms. In the Sengoku, your birth means nothing, your bloodline, nothing. Only your will to survive, and your willingness to adapt. Japan is being reforged, and the heat has only begun. From this maelstrom rise three extraordinary men, each destined to hold Japan's fate in his hands. Oda Nobunaga, the Demon King. He burns sacred temples without hesitation, arms his peasant soldiers with muskets, and crushes anyone who mistakes tradition for strength. He does not conquer Japan. He drags it into the future. Toyotomi Hideyoshi begins life as a sandal bearer, a peasant. Yet through cunning and relentless ambition, he climbs higher than any commoner in Japanese history, to become regent of the realm itself. And then there is Tokugawa Ieyasu. While others burn bright and fast, Ieyasu waits. He watches Nobunaga fall to betrayal, watches Hideyoshi's empire crumble after his death. Ieyasu understands what the others do not. In a world of chaos, patience is the ultimate weapon. The Japanese have a saying that captures these three souls perfectly. Nobunaga pounds the rice cake. Hideyoshi kneads it. Ieyasu eats it. The violent preparation, the skillful shaping, and the patient man who inherits the finished work. In 1600, at the Battle of Sekigahara, Ieyasu's moment finally arrives. The patient strategist defeats his rivals and claims a unified Japan. The chaos ends. The Tokugawa era begins. October 21st, 1600, dawn breaks over Sekigahara, and 160,000 samurai vanish into the fog. Two armies, one question: who will rule Japan? For hours, the mist swallows entire divisions. Men fight shadows. Alliances waver. Then, betrayal. A warlord switches sides, his banners turning like a blade in the back. When the fog lifts, Tokugawa Ieyasu stands victorious, not through strength alone, but through patience. He had waited decades for this morning. Victory is easy. Keeping it, that's the masterwork. Ieyasu doesn't just defeat his enemies, he designs a system to make rebellion impossible, his stroke of genius. Sankin-kotai. Every regional lord must spend alternate years in the new capital, Edo. Their families. They stay permanently, honored guests who can never leave, hostages in silk. The cost of maintaining two grand households bleeds potential rebels dry. And the roads connecting them, built without bridges at key rivers, easy to travel in peace, impossible to cross with an army. Ieyasu turns geography into a weapon and bureaucracy into a cage. In 1603, Tokugawa Ieyasu becomes shogun. Across Japan, gates close. Castle gates, city gates, harbor gates. The cost of rebellion has been made impossibly high, and for the first time in memory, peace becomes more profitable than war. Japan seals itself into 265 years of tranquility, the longest peace any major civilization has ever known. In 1639, Japan makes a decision that will echo through centuries. The gates close, the harbors empty. Foreign ships are turned away, their crews warned that return means death. Christianity, which had sparked the bloody Shimabara rebellion, is banned absolutely. Converts face a choice: renounce their faith or die for it. Thousands choose death. Only one window to the outside world remains open: a tiny artificial island in Nagasaki Harbor called Dejima. Here, Dutch merchants are permitted to trade. They cannot set foot on Japanese soil. Japan has become a fortress, sealed from within. What happens when a civilization steps outside of time? For 200 years, Japan will answer that question. While Europe industrializes and empires clash across continents, Japan cultivates something else entirely: gardens that turn stone and moss into philosophy, puppet theaters that make grown men weep, woodblock prints that will one day stun Monet and Van Gogh. No foreign influence, no outside pressure, just a culture growing inward, deeper, stranger, more purely itself than any nation has ever been. Japan becomes a controlled experiment in civilization, and the results will be extraordinary. 265 years, no major wars, no foreign invasions. While Europe drowns in the 30 Years' War, the War of Spanish Succession, the Napoleonic conquests, Japan simply waits. The longest unbroken peace in any major civilization's recorded history. Swords that once tasted blood are cleaned, oiled, and mounted on walls. Weapons become heirlooms, and the men trained to kill must find a new reason to live. So what does a warrior do when there's no one left to fight? He discovers that discipline has no single master. The hand that gripped the sword now guides the brush. The focus that found the gap in armor now finds beauty in empty space. Samurai become magistrates, weighing justice instead of blade angles. They become scholars, their battles waged in philosophy. They become artists, and they bring to the tea ceremony the same intensity they once brought to war. And here lies the great irony. Bushido, the way of the warrior, is written down, codified, perfected, precisely when warriors have nothing to fight. The code becomes philosophy. The philosophy becomes identity. The samurai transform into an aristocracy frozen in amber, their swords sharp, their purpose shifted. They had set out to master death. They ended up mastering life. They called it ukiyo, the floating world. In the pleasure districts of Edo, a new culture bloomed beneath paper lanterns. Kabuki actors became the first celebrities. Geisha perfected the art of conversation, and artists like Hokusai captured it all. His great wave, frozen mid-crash, eternally powerful, eternally still. These woodblock prints cost less than a bowl of noodles. Art, for the first time, belonged to everyone. Here was Tokugawa Japan's great contradiction. Merchants ranked lowest in the official hierarchy, beneath farmers, beneath artisans, far beneath samurai. Yet they grew rich while warriors grew poor. A samurai couldn't touch commerce, so he borrowed, and borrowed again. He'd bow to receive his stipend, then bow deeper to the merchant who'd fund his debts. The social order remained frozen in law, while quietly inverting in life. Spring, 1701. In Edo Castle, Lord Asano Naganori draws his sword, an act punishable by death within the shogun's walls. His target, a court official who had mocked and humiliated him for days. The blade barely cuts, but the law is absolute. That same afternoon, Asano kneels in white robes, performs seppuku, and his domain is erased. 300 samurai wake the next morning with no lord, no income, no honor. They are Ronin now, ghosts in a world that despises the masterless. 47 men make a secret vow. Then they scatter and begin to lie. Oishi Yoshio, their leader, divorces his wife. He staggers through Kyoto's pleasure quarters, pickled in sake, brawling in gutters. A samurai from a rival clan spits on him in the street. And Oishi doesn't reach for his sword. Word spreads, Asano's men are broken. The court official who caused their lord's death relaxes his guard. But look closer. In that drunk's home, maps. In that gambler's sleeve, a sharpened blade. They are waiting. They have not forgotten. December 14th, 1702. Snow falls on Edo. 47 shadows converge on a mansion. They scale the walls in silence, cut down the guards, and find their quarry hiding in a charcoal shed. They offer him a warrior's death, the same blade their lord used. He refuses. So they take his head, carry it through the snow-hushed streets, and lay it on Lord Asano's grave. Then they wait. The shogun grants them the honor their lord was denied. Seppuku, not execution. They die as samurai, and Japan will tell their story forever. July 8th, 1853. Black smoke rises on the horizon of Edo Bay. 4 American warships, steam-powered, iron-hulled, anchor within cannon range of the capital. Commodore Matthew Perry has arrived with a letter from the president and enough firepower to level the city. Samurai line the shore, hands on sword hilts, facing gun barrels that could fire from a mile away. 250 years of peace, and the swords that symbolized it are suddenly, terrifyingly obsolete. The samurai faced a choice that would define their legacy. They could fight and lose everything, or they could do something unprecedented, abolish themselves. Within 15 years, warriors who had ruled for 7 centuries dismantled their own class. They cut their top knots, traded swords for Western rifles. In 1876, the government banned samurai from carrying blades at all. They gave up the soul of their identity, not in defeat, but in sacrifice. To save Japan, the samurai chose to become something new. Here is the secret the samurai discovered, one that changed everything. The swordsmith folding steel 10,000 times wasn't just making a weapon, he was making a philosophy visible. The tea master practicing a single pour for 40 years, the calligrapher spending a lifetime on one character. Different disciplines, the same devotion. They transformed patience itself into a technology, and that technology could build anything, a blade, a nation, a soul. What the samurai learned in those long centuries of peace was something profound. The way of the warrior was never really about war. It was about discipline, honor, the relentless pursuit of perfection in everything you touch. That's why their swords were the sharpest in history, not because of better steel, but because of better dedication. And that's why their legacy outlived their blades. And so we return to where we began. A farmer in a rice paddy, knee-deep in mud. He looks up as mounted warriors thunder past, carrying not just swords, but an ideal, a way of being that would outlast emperors, outlast shoguns, outlast even the age of the samurai itself. Excellence isn't achieved, it's pursued. The journey is the destination.